Hi all, this video is our analysis of AMD. Now, if you don't have enough time to watch the whole video, let me summarize it for you in about 10 seconds. So I have two main points. Point number one, most analysts have lowered their target prices for AMD, but based on Wall Street target prices, AMD is still massively undervalued. And number two, if you're holding AMD or thinking about buying AMD, there is one metric that you really need to watch like a hawk. And this is non-GAAP gross profit margin. If it dips below 52%, run like hell. Sell everything because the company is not going anywhere. Here, I have summarized everything for you. Now, if you want details, continue watching the video. Let's immediately start with the new target prices for AMD because a lot of analysts last week posted new ones. And let's start with Citi, who have slashed their target prices from 170 to 110 and changed their outlook from buy to neutral. They have said that they didn't like that the company did not provide any guidance related to their AI revenues for H1 2025, and they said that they are expecting this revenue to be flat, which is probably true, and they have said that they are expecting the margins to decline in H1, which I think is not true, but we will talk about this later in the video. Now, the next analyst is KeyBank Capital Markets, which have lowered their target price from 150 to 140, which, if you think about this for a second, 140 is still upside of about almost 40%, so it's still pretty good. They have maintained a buy rating. They said that the Q4 results and Q1 guidance were in line with the expectation, and they have also mentioned that AMD did not provide any specific guidance for data center revenue in Q1 or in Q2, to be honest, but the management of AMD said that data center, including GPUs, would grow strong double-digit percentage this year. Evercore have maintained their buy rating, but they have slashed the prices from 198 to 147. At least we can see that someone is doing their DC evaluation normally and not getting the round numbers like 150. So they have slashed from 198 to 147, and they too said that the growth in the data center business would pause in the first half of 2025. And the last but not least, Mizuho kept buy rating, or outperform as they call it, on AMD, but reduced the target price from 160 to 140. So what can we kind of in summary get from all of this? Most analysts kind of slashed their target prices, and they are now expecting AMD stock to not to raise as much as they thought it would be before the Q4 results. But the average price, the average target price on AMD stock is about 150. So we still have about 45% to go, and Wall Street really thinks that AMD is undervalued. The lowest price I found was $90 per share. The highest one was $225. If you find this information valuable or interesting, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and you can become a member of the Market Monkeys channel. Hello and welcome to the Market Monkeys channel. My name is Vadim. Today we're talking about AMD, and I wanted to look at this company from two different perspectives. First perspective is mine. I do not hold any AMD stock, but I would have bought this because AMD is a great company. We are right now in a kind of tech AI boom, and this is kind of the right company in the right market environment. So I wanted to analyze AMD to figure out for how much would I buy the stock. The second perspective is Julia's perspective, my co-host. So she holds AMD stock, and of course she was shocked by what happened last week when the stock just dropped. So she wants to know if her investment thesis about AMD still holds. Is AMD still the company she bought a couple of months ago? So first, let's start with Q4 results. And judging by what happened to the stock of the company, you would expect that the results were terrible. But this is not actually true because, first of all, the company has achieved a record-breaking revenue of $7.7 billion. Gross margins are up to 51% if you're looking at GAAP gross margins, or 54% if you're looking at non-GAAP gross margins. By the way, in this video, from now on, we will only talk about non-GAAP gross margins because they reflect better the margin that the company achieved. Operating income is up as well, and actually by a lot. And the only thing that was down was GAAP earnings per share, which was down from 41 cents to 29 cents per share, but this was due to one-time tax revision that the company had in this quarter. So in summary, we can see that as results go, these are pretty good. These are okay. And actually, if you remember what analysts said in the previous segment, they said that the results were in line. But the stock just hit 52-week low, which basically should mean that the company is at its worth for the year, right? And it doesn't feel this way. So what's the deal here? And this actually, I love situations like this because this is a situation of market overreaction. So we need to understand, is this reaction a normal one or indeed overreaction? If this is overreaction, this is a great opportunity to buy a good company for a good price. So the reasons for this drop of AMD stock are two. First one is all this DeepSeek nonsense, and second one is AMD's guidance. Now, DeepSeek nonsense, we have talked about this in our previous video on NVIDIA. Basically, you can go there and switch NVIDIA with AMD and you will get pretty much the same video. So we have addressed all the issues with DeepSeek previously. Now let's talk about AMD guidance. Now, here's the thing. The company, first of all, did not release any specific guidance related to data center or in general AI. And the company guided that the Q1 of 2025 will actually be lower in revenue than the Q4 of 2024 and lower by about 7%. So the company expects about $7.1 billion. In Q4, they had 7.7. And the explanation for all of this is because of, first of all, seasonality, because if you remember, AMD, they're not only dealing with data centers, they actually dealing with stuff like gaming and CPUs, and they are highly seasonal. And second of all, the company said that the sales to data centers are lumpy. What does it mean? It means that for like half a year, you may not get any orders, and then in like a couple of weeks, you get a bunch of orders, which kind of makes your revenue unpredictable. Now, if we assume that both Q1 and Q2 of 2025, the company will stay with $7.1 billion, which again is lower than Q4, this is still between 22 and 30% growth year over year, because we are comparing the Q1 and Q2 of 2025 with Q1 and Q2 of 2024. And this would still be a pretty good result. Now, here comes the most important part. And this is the part I will be again watching like a hawk and pay close attention here. The company has guided for gross margin to stay the same as in Q4. Why is this important? First of all, we have the record-breaking gross margin for AMD of 54%. So this means that AMD is better positioned at controlling their costs, at scale production, and in general in pricing of what they are selling. Now, let's say we think that the management of the company are all just dirty cheats and liars, and there is no seasonality and there is no lumpiness in data center revenue, and they cannot earn more because nobody wants AMD stuff anymore. If this would be the case, we would see in Q1 2025 gross margins drop because AMD would have to lower the prices of their products to stay competitive. Now, if gross margins stay the same, I actually will give them a couple of percentages. So right now they have 54. Let's say if the gross margins stay 52 and higher, that means that the explanation of the management of the company is good and that the stock the whole investment thesis holds, and you should not worry and you can just hold the stock and wait for it to grow back. Now, if it drops below 52%, me personally, I would sell immediately. They can achieve a better revenue than expected, but if gross margin begin to drop, I'm selling right away. So now that we understand that, let's try to imagine how 2025 will look for AMD investors. This interests me. Why, I will tell you in about 3 minutes. So 2025 will look pretty much like this. Q1 and Q2 we expect revenues not to grow that much. In Q3 we have a release of MI 350, and here I will quote Evergreen's analyst Mark Lupakis. AMD's next-gen GPU MI 350, which is slated to ramp in the second half of 2025, expands its customer base with increased training functionality, and its follow-on MI 400 extends that capability even further. So we expect the burst of growth of revenues for AMD to grow in Q3 and Q4 in 2025. So quiet first half of the year and then kind of the explosion in the second half. Alright, so what are my plans for AMD? In the previous video, I think it was a couple of months ago, I said that I will buy AMD, probably buy if it drops below 100. So if it drops below 100, I am investing in AMD. Now, I'm going to invest as I like to invest. I will probably invest in call options, and I will probably look for call options for about a year. So we're looking at the expiration of probably January 26th, maybe March 26th, and I will probably go for strikes of about $150 per share. I will need to look at the price first to kind of understand if there is a possibility of making a couple of 100% there, but this would be kind of my idea. If you are not liking call options, you can invest in common shares like Julia had, and I think if gross margins are any indicator and they're not dropping in Q1 and Q2, and if you can hold throughout 2025, you will be rewarded handsomely. If you have any questions, write them down below. If you are holding AMD, let us know what is, first of all, your average price, and second of all, are you holding for kind of long term? Hopefully you are, or are you looking for a specific price to sell? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.